the military culture. Oh, there we go. So we like to always record these, by the way, for those of you who probably saw that message, so that you can always go back and be able to see it again. But tonight's topic is a great topic that we're going to engage in, and I'm so excited to introduce our panel members. And for those of you, like I say, just joining us, I'm Colonel Clydea Pritchard Brown. I'm the founder of the Female Mentor Morale Program. However, I have an awesome executive team that is making us this powerhouse of a program that is a grassroots program that is actually growing throughout the Army. And if you receive my email, you'll know we've been doing some great things so far. And the reason we're growing so much is because of great people like you, awesome people like you that see a vision of just being able to provide a safe platform for males and females to talk through issues that concern female service members so that we can continue to serve proudly. And what a coincidence that today we had our Women's Equality observance today. And with that, it's a great opportunity to introduce our panel members right now, as a matter of fact. So I am so honored to introduce the panel members, but before we do that, we're going to say a quick prayer. We have Captain Mary Tang, who's going to bring us in and make sure we have some of our own prayers that are going to have a great evening this evening. So Captain Tang, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. Hello, everyone. Okay, so I'll start us with a little prayer. Lord, as we pray in your name, please give us the strength as we move forward through our challenges and the salvation in times of distress. Open up our eyes to humility and the power to show the unyielding love to everyone. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And we offer a prayer, but we ask that you pray in your own faith. So we never want to force anyone to pray in a faith that they choose not to. And so with that, I'm so honored to introduce our three panelists this evening. Our first panel guest member is retired Brigadier General Lori Sutton. Now, she served in the military over 20 years, and she's a lifelong public servant. She's a physician. And as a retired Brigadier General, she has been the highest ranking psychiatrist, co-founder of the Threshold Global Works, LLC, and she's the founding commissioner of the New York City Department of Veterans Services. She's devoted over 35 years of her life of service and leadership to the nation and to New York. And so if you've already received her bio, she has so many more things in there about her, but I wanted to make sure you all knew some of the key highlight things that just impressed me and so many people that know her. With that, I'd like to now also introduce our second panel member, and that is CW5 Jonathan Waddy. I want to make sure I say that right. He's the Dean of Technical Logistics College at the ALU, at the Army Logistics University here at Fort Lee, Virginia. He enlisted in the Army in 1989 and has accessed to the senior ranks of the Warrant Officer Corps. Became the senior warrant officer in 2002, if I'm not mistaken, Chief. And I will let you tell a little bit more about yourself for that because of the great things that you already do. Civilian education includes Associates in Arts and Management and a Bachelor's in Arts and Human Resources from Park University. And Chief Waddy, he received his Integrated Supply Chain Management Certificate from St. Louis University. And so with that, there's so many other things. Hopefully you've all had an opportunity to read his bio. And now, without our third awesome panel member is the Quartermaster Sergeant Major. So the U.S. Army Quartermaster School has our Sergeant Major here with us this evening, and that is Command Sergeant Major Tissa Scott. Now, Tissa Scott is a native of Eatonton, Georgia. She attended basic combat training at Fort Leonard Wood back in Missouri in 1993. So we got some great. All three of our panel members have a lot of experience that they can talk to you about, especially with our topic this evening. And with our topic this evening about the military how military culture can cause leaders to fail. There are certain things about the culture that we're going to talk about that we're trying to change that'll make our environment better for our service members, male and females, but definitely about how we can live together in this formation in the units that we work with. And so with that, I want to open it up. We're going to start out with Brigadier General retired Lori Sutton, or Miss Sutton. Ma'am, would you please open us up with some great comments and thoughts?
Well, thank you so much, Colonel Pritchard Brown, and my distinguished co-panelist, Dean CW5 Jonathan Waddy, and Command Sergeant Major Tina Scott. It's really a a pleasure to be with you and to be back within the Army tribe. You know, as we mentioned in the run-up, as we were getting ready for this this session tonight, and just acknowledging just what a tough day it has been for our troops and our country. And I appreciate so much the prayer to just get us in a space where we can be thankful for the service of so many and those families who are getting the toughest experience of a lifetime with the visit from the chaplain and the NCO this evening. So I just really, you know, times like these, it makes me think back to my nearly 30 years in the Army, and just, you know, just makes me want to start doing push-ups all over again. And Command Sergeant Major Scott, yeah, I'm not sure that I can do the new Army's APFT or what, I don't even know what it's called now, but it just gets me pumped up. And I'll tell you, you know, this topic of military culture, it's such an important one. And to know that this program exists, and this is its 2-year anniversary, isn't it, Colonel PB? 2 years this month. And to know that it's supported, you know, through CASCOM, you know.
Absolutely. Ma'am, I will tell you, we officially became official on 6 March of last year. But we started, our interest group started in August of 2019. So that was the interest group. So yes, our full anniversary of 2 years of just having that vision and running with it. So absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much for acknowledging that.
And it started with you, Colonel Pritchard Brown. And look what a great thing you put together. And now it's got support from the highest levels of the Army, from the Chief of Staff of the Army, and I understand that it's going further, even that other services are interested in piling in here and really sharing the wealth of wisdom, and wisdom that extends beyond any of us as women leaders, whether we're still junior enlisted or senior NCOs, or whether we're God of the Army, a command or a Chief Ward Officer 5, Dean Waddy. It takes all of us. And so I'm so glad to see such a diverse, inclusive group of fellow warriors that's come tonight to share ideas and experiences that really matter. You know, when I think about culture, I think about even the title of our session tonight. I'm looking for here, how military culture causes leaders to fail. And it's an interesting title because I think there's a lot to unpack there. And hopefully when we get to the questions, I'm not going to yap for very long. I want to just, you know, get this thing started, and then we'll hear from our fellow panelists, and then we'll get into really where the learning takes place, where we get to interact. But I think this question of how military culture causes leaders to fail, it's got another side to it as well. And that's something that we can do something about. We must do something about how at times we as military leaders can, through our failure to be the keeper of the culture, the conscience, the creator, the adapter, you know, culture can't be static. And one of the things I'm working on right now, I'm working with a company called Veteran Services USA. You're going to hear more about us going forward, but it's time that we expand upon, we strengthen and we deepen our Army values. So that's one of the things I'm working on right now, to kind of lay out what the veteran deal points are. What do we gain through our service? Whether it's the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, you know, families serve too. But I think for any of us as leaders, we need to understand that culture starts with us. And we need to take on that mantle of responsibility, knowing that, you know, everyone wants to fit in. Everyone wants to be part of the team. And as a leader, if we start seeing even little signs of disrespect, maybe it's an off-color joke, maybe it's a racial slur that's sort of under the breath and could be, you know, maybe you think maybe you just ignore it, maybe you didn't hear it right. Maybe it's a sign of disrespect for, you know, one of our LGBTQ brothers and sisters. Who knows what it is, but we know it when we see it. We can feel it in our guts. And as leaders, we must intervene. We must be the keepers, the creators, the conscience of our culture, wherever it is that we serve, in whatever sphere of influence we have. And I would just say, I learned more about being a woman in uniform after I retired from the Army after nearly 30 years than I ever knew when I was in uniform. And that's why I celebrate this program, because you know what it was like, Sergeant Major and Colonel Phoebe, you may have heard, when Dacquewicz was coming to town, we're at Fort Hood and we say, oh, Dacquewicz is coming to town, time to look busy. The last thing we wanted to do was to stand out as someone different than our brothers in arms. And so I think that these are the kinds of programs that get us together, get us to be candid, get us to have a safe environment where we can talk about things that really do matter, and then strengthen our ability to rise up and march forward together, shoulder to shoulder. And it starts with each of us as leaders. Back to you, Colonel Pritchard Brown.
Ma'am, thank you so much. And you're absolutely right. It starts with the leaders, and it also starts with our juniors to help the leaders realize when we're not doing what we're supposed to do. I think it's even more valuable when we hear from our juniors that are helping us identify. I remember when I was a junior enlisted soldier, to say, well, is that what a leader's supposed to do? So I appreciate you saying this, that culture that needs to come together. And I'm so excited. We're going to start asking you a ton of questions, all three of you, as we start. And just so you all know, here again, we open it up for others to offer their comments as well, because that's where the dialogue comes in from your experiences in your time. And you're right, ma'am, I enlisted in 1991, and I was literally, my AIT formation, the majority, if not 75 to 80% of the formation was 29 years and younger. And I'm like, you don't even know what the Army's like. You weren't even born. So thank you for that, ma'am. So I'm going to turn it over now to CW5, Chief Waddy. Are you ready to go?
Okay, let's get hot.
All right.
All right. So welcome all. So we're here to talk about how military culture causes leaders to fail. So when I was approached to speak about this, I said, okay, what way am I going to look at this? I said, I can talk from what I've done in my military career. I've always been in units with females. I've always, from military intelligence, Patriot missiles, to transportation. But I said, let me also inquire some of our leaders that's out there now from the female side to see what some of their ideas and what some of their, not topics, because I have the topics, but to elaborate on some things. So bear with me, please, because as I state some of these things, it may seem controversial, but this is from inquiring from outside, and we can have this dialogue to work this stuff out. Okay. Okay, so first of all, culture, is the customs, art, social institutions, and achievements of particular nation, people, or the social group. But how can military culture cause us to fail? So as I stated, with the following points, we'll discuss how military culture can affect specifically female leaders in my topics. So according to ADP 6-22, leadership is the activity of influencing people to provide purpose, direction, and motivation to accomplish the mission and improve the organization. When military culture causes women to internalize misogyny or lose confidence in their ability to lead, their ability to provide motivation could deteriorate. And we don't want that, because that's how it can cause leadership to fail in one instance. I'm going to talk about 4 topics, and those 4 topics are simple majority, pregnancy and family life, sameness and equality, and respect as a function of physical ability. And our first panelist has spoke on some of these things already, so just bear with me. So we'll talk about simple majority first. The simple fact that women are a majority in the Army, minority in the Army, can lead to exclusion. Some women have expressed that they constantly need to adapt to a male-dominated environment which is not always accepting women entering a male-dominated ranks and circles. And we've seen this all the time. Not in every case, but we see it out there in the military. The solution is not necessarily just adding women to the ranks, but seeing the value in diversity of all kinds of people and cultures within the unit. As I spoke with some females, lieutenants, warrant officers, and NCOs, I had some comments from some that stated things of this nature. One way to think about this topic that I'm discussing on simple majority is to include females into units and organizations versus just adding them there. In addition to, adding, you would simply want them to not just assimilate as if they were already there. However, including would also more emphasize the idea that they would not have to assimilate or emulate the majority, but feel comfortable in bringing a perspective or point of view. This can be said of all soldiers, as it is important to foster a safe environment where soldiers can feel that they're not pressured to simply conform, but bring forth new ideas to improve the efforts and the organization of everyone. So with this, as I said, it's not just to assimilate into what everybody else is doing and say, hey, you have to lose your femininity and so forth, but bring new things to the table. As we see innovation and things of that nature, we always know that there's different ways to get to the same objective. And if we keep doing it the same way, it may work, but with new technology, new ways of thinking, the Gen Xers, Gen Zs, and so forth like that, there's different approaches, and you have different people that's coming into the military now that may think a little bit differently. So we can't always just go with the old ways. Understand time. If time is, of essence, then you may want to go with what works because you have limited time. But when you have a lot of, a little bit more time, you want to make sure that you value other people's opinion and try things out, because you may find out that, hey, there's another way that can work for everybody. My next topic, and we'll talk about these things. Next topic is hot and heavy issue that I had a lot of my people that I questioned. They were hot on this one. Pregnancy and family life. So the idea that your personal life should not affect your life in the Army, coupled with the fact that the majority of household duties and life-changing events like pregnancy can affect women more, makes it hard for some women, especially, to balance their personal with their professional lives. Women sometimes can be expected to be the nurturer of children at young age, which usually coincides with beginning or the middle of one's career. So there's a battle there, because for some, or for most, from what I've researched, talking to my mom and so forth like that, you have a child, and for most, that nurturing, I need to be there, I need to be there. But the Army's still calling you to say, you need to be here, you need to be here. So female service members often put off having family because there's the idea that you can't be in command and be pregnant at the same time, or be a mother of young children. While there are resources that can make it possible to do both, people are often unwilling, or they don't know about those resources. Having a balance on one's personal and professional life is important for all service members. So I had some comments from some of the people that I talked to out there, and they said, they've witnessed that many female peers are being forced to get out of the military due to the demands of dual military and single parents, as they did not feel that the environment supported either. That was one comment. Some of the other things that I heard about was, we know that single parents may have made a personal commitment to themselves to never even bring up their child as a reason they weren't able to do a task, or ask themselves ask to themselves and their peers to include school details, duty, deployments, taskings, etc. And these are some things that goes down. Some people witness that over and over again, disparaging comments that's made by leaders when a person's family, especially children, interfere or prevent them from completing a task. Both been heard, witnessed or witnessed single parents, dual military called out when this happens, even if it's only once a year, but the same was not said to others that, didn't fit that mold of having children as a prejudice or a stereotype. Many leaders, within the Army are single parents and dual military, and they make it work, but they do have some of these prejudices if they bring their family, into the question. Women, like everyone else, will really have their family issues arise, that would interfere with work. A lot of women like, look, I got to do my work. And we see this. We know that women are strong. They're there to do the task, just like the men. Women do, as required, have family care plans for deployment, school, etc., but do not want to wear them out when it isn't essential, simply to please others. No female is out there saying, well, I just want to use my family care plan, just because it's there, anything that happens. The family care plan is there for certain instances. And I don't personally see a lot of women using it just to get out of things. And that's not what it's there for. And I don't see that. But some of my counterparts would argue differently, to say, hey, anything that comes up is always because of the kid. And we know that's not always true. There's events that happens with anyone that comes up that detracts, or, hey, I can't be there right now because of this issue, whether I'm sick or whatever like that. And they have their battle buddy, fill in for them. But sometimes when you're dealing with family issues, especially when it comes to a woman, some people will have that stereotype that, oh, this can't really, this person's not really working out, when there's really no difference between what a female counterpart may be doing than what a male counterpart may be doing. Family care plans are not designated, to cover every little detail and circumstance that could arise. It's for long and short-term care, such as deployment, schools, TDYs, training, exercise, as we all know. So as leaders, we just need to make sure that we're reviewing the family care plans, making sure that everything is up to date, but also being empathetic to all service members that have something that's going on, because we're human, things do happen, but we all need to plan accordingly for those short-term calendars and those long-term calendars, and try to meet our task appropriately. If I go into my third point, we'll talk about sameness and equality. The Army can sometimes overcompensate for making sure that people are treated equally regardless of their background. This can be taken to the extent of erasing instead of valuing our differences. Women are not the same as their male counterparts, and that's okay. But it's easy to fall into the trap thinking that every leader has to go about the problem the same way, regardless of personal differences. Female leaders can be hesitant to seek out specifically female mentorship or even friends because of the narrative that leaders are the same regardless of gender. Women tend to go about things differently than men, and that's not something that needs to be fixed. Some people that I've spoke to, they said, uniformity does not mean identical. No two leaders are exactly the same. We're influenced by our experiences, morals, beliefs, and values. There's no single best way to lead. It depends on who the followers are, and you have to, know your soldiers. Having various effective leaders help shape and mold our younger generation to take pieces, examples from many to continue to become more agile and capable leaders. It's essential to value diversity and understand that not everyone will be the leader that you want, but it doesn't mean that they won't be effective, won't be just as effective. My last point is about respect as a function of physical ability. Because the Army values fitness and strength, there's a tendency not to highly value women. Why? Who say some are naturally weaker or slower, as leaders are valued members of the team, respect can often be a function of how fast or strong or tall you are. And we see that, especially with the old Army. This affects both women and men, but is often internalized by women, even affecting self confidence and willingness to lead and take initiative. Now, that can be on both sides, men and women, but I'm trying to focus this towards the female persuasion, and it's not all women. While standards need to be met and exceeded, the concept of that someone's worth is tied entirely on an ACFT score is not productive. Recognizing in professional skills and strengths and other things other than physical ones can make everyone feel motivated and valued to a team, because a leader is more than just one aspect. If they only knew how to do physical fitness, and I'm not saying that you don't meet the standards, so don't get me wrong with that. What I'm saying is, if you're not the best, leg tuck person, or you're not the best, sprint drag carry person, that doesn't mean that you're not a great leader, because it takes more than just the physical aspect to do these things. Yes, the Army still has a standard, so you still need to meet the standard. We all know this. But just because you're not the tallest, the strongest, the fastest, does not mean that you will not be as effective, depending on what's happening. So no one component of a soldier is more important than another. And it takes all facets to be a leader, not just physical ability, technical ability, interpersonal skills, etc. It literally takes all of these. So why would you focus so heavily on just physical ability over anything else when, physical ability is not going to say that you're a great leader? You may be a great boxer, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a great leader, because a leader is more than just one aspect. So we go back into the ADP 6-22, and it states that leadership is an activity of influencing people by providing purpose, direction, and motivation to accomplish the mission and improve the organization. Leadership is an element of combat power, which we all do, and we all support, coupled with information that unifies warfighting functions. Leadership focuses on synchronizes organizations. Leaders inspire people to become energized and motivated to achieve desired outcomes. An Army leader is anyone by virtue of assumed role or assigned responsibility that inspires and influences people to provide purpose, direction, and motivation to accomplish the mission and improve the organization. We all are leaders out here. We all need to incorporate our strengths, build upon each other, and not stereotype things that's in the past that we say, oh, well, they're too short, they're too small, they're not strong enough. Hey, I wouldn't do it this way because this is the way we've been doing it for the last 100 years. There's new ways of doing things. There's innovative ways of doing it. We always encourage innovation, but then we still stereotype these things which cause risk to the Army. We don't want to lose our females. We don't want to push them away. We want to have inclusion, not exclusion. So with that, I will close and I'll open for comments. Oh.
Wow, Chief. I mean, no wonder you're a dean of a school. So that was awesome. And I truly appreciate you saying that. And here's why it's so valuable to hear this from you, our male counterpart, because the reason we chose the topic about how culture can cause leaders to fail is because if we remain in the old culture of what you just described, then the leaders will fail. They will never evolve to the new generation or get to the new generation and have that respect for each of our leaders, because they will still have that old mentality and thought process. I mentioned earlier, I enlisted in 91. That was a totally different Army from the soldiers that are coming in today. That's a totally different Army from some of the soldiers that are sitting on here right now. So we really appreciate your thoughts on that. And I can't wait for the dialogue, because a lot of the times when we need to have these discussions, we'll have it, the women will have it amongst ourselves, but we don't have our male counterparts involved in it to understand and go out and carry the water for us. You're in those conversations with the men that are having those and making those comments. So who better to stop those conversations from happening than someone that sees the same thing. So I really appreciate your thoughts and your comments on that. And be ready, we'll have those questions coming in. And now, last but not least, for sure, we've got Command Sergeant Major Tissa Scott. Sergeant Major, you ready?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Awesome. You're
So
welcome.
first of all, I just want to say thank you, Colonel Pritchard Brown, for inviting me to participate on this panel, along with Ms. Sutton and also Chief Waddy. And so I think this was like design and order, like kind of like opening remarks. And then Chief kind of gave us some ideas to generate this discussion. And then for me to kind of close it up for us to go into the comments. But I will say it's the ACFT, Ms. Sutton, that we take. I have it tomorrow, so we keep talking about it. So I think you guys are hyping me up to be prepared for it tomorrow. So more to follow on that. But yes, so what I wanted to start off by talking about, when I looked at this topic, when it first came to me about how military culture causes leaders to fail. And I had some reservations about it because I, was kind of looking at it and kind of feeling like, hey, as a leader, you don't want to put, set a bad notion as if we're saying, military culture causes leaders to fail. So my comments are more on the line of, culture evolves slowly. It generates through beliefs that's passed from one generation of soldiers to the next. And, it's communicated throughout policies. We got doctrines, we got customs and traditions throughout the military that kind of establishes and tells us what that culture should look like. I believe that culture should be inclusive of prevention, intervention, and compassion to care for another from each soldier that's standing in your formation. We as leaders own the culture of our organizations, and failure to take ownership is some of those things that can cause, or that is what causes leaders to fail because they don't own the culture within their formations. Leaders who fail to take appropriate actions against misconduct or inappropriate behavior of leaders, it not only corrodes the formation, but it also breaks the trust among the members that's within your organization as well. So leaders have to enforce the organizational culture of inclusion, which is what we've been talking about today, which demands and values diversity of knowledge and perspectives from all ranks and from all walks of life, whether it's male, female, doesn't matter what ethnic background that they're from. We should include everybody into that conversation and make them a part of the team. There's three things that I would like to kind of highlight as we go forward to this and bring this into conversation as we go forward with discussion. So as leaders, I believe that cultural agility is something that we as leaders should own. Cultural agility it begins with self-awareness, knowing who you are and understanding how your own culture and how it shapes our experience as leaders, and it impacts the decisions that we make and also the people that's around us as well. Cultural agility also talks about being attuned to our environment and being able to adjust to behaviors, adapting to cultural differences, being an authentic leader, seeking knowledge about other cultures, others' backgrounds, other walks of life, and also continuously assessing and seeking opportunities to grow. And I think that that's a very important trait that if we can instill that into our leaders and into the formation, I think that we can teach leaders, first understand yourself. And once you understand yourself, it helps you understand how you behave in a formation and how you allow others to behave. And it also allows you to put measures into place to ensure that we don't have that toxicity, that sometimes corrode a formation. The second thing I want to talk about is accountability. Accountability is a big thing because, holding people accountable. So if there are actions or, inappropriate misconduct, we as leaders have to hold people accountable. And, it doesn't matter if it's a peer, if it's the lowest soldier in the formation, or if it's a leader. When soldiers in the formation see that there's different standards among, the leadership, that is what corrodes and that's what causes leaders to fail because you're setting different standards for, different members within your formation. Standards should be the same. Standards and discipline should be the same. It should be enforced throughout your formation, and you should hold leaders at every echelon to enforce a culture that treats people with dignity and respect. And, kind of like Ms. Sutton, what you addressed from the beginning of the conversation, where you just have kind of that subliminal comment that may be said, and you may be questioning yourself, that's kind of borderline. I really don't know. But if you nip it in the bud from the beginning, that shows as a leader that you will not tolerate that misconduct and that misbehavior. And it shows and demonstrates you as a leader, you're setting the example for your formation, you're owning it. And so that's what we have to do. And that is the culture that we have to set, amongst the team to create that, cohesive team. The Chief of Staff of the Army talked about the people strategy, people first strategy all the time. And so when we look at the people first strategy, it's an inclusive strategy. It includes everybody. And what we, fail or some people don't take into account, when you do have, the leadership that is failing soldiers, and I would say that type of leadership, one that's not holding people accountable, that's letting toxicity exist inside of your formation, that's what kind of promotes that suicidal behavior or that sexual harassment or that sexual assault that we see in formation, or the racism and extremism, that we sometimes deal with as leaders. So just holding people accountable, being transparent as a leader, from the top. So they see, so what you see is what you get. So it's not like I stand in front of you and I say one thing, and then when I get behind closed doors, we say, okay, hey, we're going to do this a different way. So just being transparent as a leader, I think is important to enable leaders to be successful, as they lead soldiers. Also, the last thing I want to hit on, before that, also leading with empathy. And I think, Chief, you said it a few minutes ago, we have to be empathetic leaders, because at once upon a time, and I know, Chief, you mentioned, being a single parent in the Army, did that. Single parent in the Army. So now when I see soldiers, and it's not just female soldiers that are single parents now in the Army, because we are evolving. You see single parent males in the Army now. So just being empathetic to, hey, what was it like when you were growing up? And, times were probably a little bit more challenging for me, 10 years ago when my son was like 5, trying to figure out a family care plan and trying to do that in the up tempo of deploying an NTC rotation or going to the field. So leading with empathy and understanding, like, hey, soldiers, and even if you haven't experienced that, just being an empathetic leader to the situation and understanding each soldier for that situation in itself would be, what I would offer. And then the last thing is training. The Army has all of these training programs. We go through equal opportunity training. We did the Project Inclusion, the merge when we had the George Foreman issue that happened, and Breonna Taylor. Then everybody came like, hey, let's do this Project Inclusion training, which was awesome training. I think it was necessary. I think it was required, but I think it was a kind of like toe touching thing, but it was a necessary conversation. And I think over time, as leaders, as we evolve with what the changes in what's surrounding us, what's going on in the world, what's going on in the environment, and we're training soldiers to be adaptable to that and training them how to be resilient to the things that are going on. That is how we empower leaders at all levels. We have to empower the soldier down to the lowest level to make that on-the-spot correction when it's just two privates standing in the front of a formation, or if it's a private and a sergeant standing in a formation, saying something that's inappropriate. We have to empower them to know that if you say something, if you bring it to us, we will action on it and not just say, oh, okay, just go somewhere else. Don't worry about that. So we have to empower them to let them know that we are building that cohesive team and that we are setting standards and enforcing them. Also I want to bring up, building that trust and having a cohesive team. It is a known fact that if your soldiers trust you, they will go the distance for you. They will go to bat for you if they trust you. But if they don't trust you, they will always be questioning you, and it may not be to your face, but they will be questioning you behind your back to their friends or to their peers, to other leaders, asking them, double checking and rechecking is what sergeant or what sergeant major or what first sergeant or what captain or what CW said. Is that really true? They won't even research it for themselves. They'll just ask the question. So you have to build that trust in your team and have that cohesive team as well. And so some of my takeaways that I want to, just lay out before we get into question is that we as leaders have to take action, and we have to encourage our formation to take action as well. And then the second thing is highlight positive. You know, there's a lot of positive things that's going on. There's a lot of great things that leaders are doing, that they are getting it right, creating a positive culture and taking those lessons learned and passing them to a formation that may be struggling with a negative culture. And I think that's how you generate a culture of people first, and literally meaning it, and not letting, you know, just saying it for it to be a bumper sticker or a slogan. Like, you're really investing that down to the lowest level in each formation. So it doesn't matter, pick a post. If you go to Fort Lee today and then you leave Fort Lee, who has a great culture and this organization got it right, and you go to pick a post Fort Bliss, Texas, and I'm not picking on any post, so don't take it that way. But if you pick another post and you get there, their culture may not be as it was at, you know, where you came from. You know, standardizing the culture, the people first campaign, and just, you know, getting to know your soldiers, getting to know your formation, that kind of builds. A soldier would take that every place that they go. And if we can get every leader, every soldier to take that positive culture of being inclusive, being diverse, treating people with dignity and respect, you know, over time, we will see the change that, okay, creating, you know, what could be a negative culture and, you know, turn it into a positive one, because we know, you know, things don't happen overnight. So it does come with change. It comes with an attitude of people wanting to do better, wanting, you know, their formations to be better. So I would just leave with saying, you know, strategic leaders shape the Army's culture, while organizational and first line leaders shape the climate of a unit and a climate of units in their organization. And I say that and I leave it there because you can't talk about culture without talking about the climate. And I think a lot of times people was like, climate, we do these climate assessment surveys, command climate assessment surveys when we first get in. And then we kind of figure out, hey, what are some of the things that we need to get after? And then we kind of get after those, and then mission happens. And then guess what? We back to square one. And then the next leader that comes in, they get the same comments on that command climate survey that the last leader got, you know, and it's not any fault of a leader, but it just takes a effort. It takes a continuous effort to keep that ball rolling and just to create that culture of diversity, inclusion, and ensuring that people are treated with dignity and respect. And with that, ma'am, I will turn it back over to you so we can start the Q&A.
Well,
Thank you.
I can't tell you how awesome all three of you have been, but that was truly awesome. And you tied all three of your messages together to where we're going to start having that dialogue. And I appreciate what you're saying about how we have to look at the climate, because the climate over time is what continues to keep that culture going. And the reason we chose this topic, we wanted it to be controversial. A lot of people say, well, the culture is good. I'm like, well, if the culture is good, we wouldn't have sharp complaints. We wouldn't have EO issues. We wouldn't have suicidal issues. Yes, we have behavioral issues and traumatic events where people experience before coming in the military or while in the military. But ask yourself, how did that build? We don't know each other enough to be able to say, I can identify from you right now what my comment made to you, how it made you feel. And we are a feeling organization. I don't care what anybody says. Any location is a feeling organization. I will walk in as a commander, and if they don't like me, it's because I don't make them feel like I'm trustworthy. But once I build that, and as you said, once we build that trust with them, they feel that they want to protect us, and they will go the long way. I remember as a lieutenant, and any officer on here, if you try to remember this, and NCOs too, when we were lieutenants, it was nothing more honorable when we heard them say, that's my LT, you know, instead of that's the platoon leader or that's the first lieutenant. It was, that's my LT. They took ownership of us. Why? It was because we built that relationship and that trust and that bond that allowed them to say, I think that person will look out for me. Well, it's clearly because somewhere in the culture, they said, I must stand against whatever is causing you problems. And that's what we have to do. And I appreciate you all bringing up the fact that we threw the question out there, we threw the topic out, and we wanted you all to figure out exactly what you wanted to say, because we don't want to stifle anybody's creativity or messaging. But it is something that you have to unpack, because there is a good culture and then there's a bad culture that we have to bring out. And so I prefaced all of that to say, now we can answer and we can open up the dialogue. But I wanted to circle back around because I love when I'm sitting here looking at Ms. Sutton doing what, and I'm seeing that thought. So ma'am, would you like to throw anything else out there with us before we get into question and answer?
Thank you so much. I mean, what a joy this last half hour. First to listen to Dean Waddy, and you're right, Chief Dean, you got it going on over there. And one of the things that struck me as I listened to Chief is that, he's the male on this panel here, and they're going to have big males who've got questions. That's great, and comments and ideas. But, Chief didn't assume that he knew what the experience of women in the Army is all about. He talked to his wife, he talked to soldiers, to NCOs, to senior leaders, and brought those insights back together and put them into the framework that is part of our Army. And it made me feel proud just listening to you, Chief. I can't thank you enough. And Sergeant Major, I was already ready to do push-ups, and I can see why you're a master resilience trainer. There's no secret there. But, when you talk about how we as leaders make others around us feel, I might not ever remember what someone said to me, a leader, years and years and years ago, but I'll never forget how that person made me feel. And that was you, Colonel PB. You were talking about a feeling organization. There you go. But that's so true. And it makes us, if you think about us as leaders, we're really in the business of creating trust, yes, pride, teamwork, respect, dignity. We want humans that can wear the cloth of our nation and make us all proud. And that's where I come back to you, Command Sergeant Major Scott. You're right there. You're at it. You're more than the backbone of our Army. You're just making it happen for your soldiers and your formations. And so many times, and particularly now that I'm out of uniform and I'll be talking to, folks who've never been in the Army or in uniform at all before, and I'll talk to them about the NCO, the motto, be, know, and do. And I say, you probably don't realize that this comes from the Army, but you need to understand this is why our Army is so great, because NCOs knew long ago, and they stitched it right into their motto, right into their creed, that who I am as a non-commissioned officer, that's the B, that's got to come first. I've got to build the character. I've got to build the skills. I got to have the courage to intervene when things are, going a little off kilter with my culture in my unit. And who I am as a person, then that's what informs what I know, how I learn, what I'm curious about, what I do to build my skills, my knowledge, and my aptitude, all of the rest. And then that leads to what I do. When you just start with the action, but you neglect the 2 steps beforehand that build the foundation of who I am and what I know, that then informs what I can do. You NCOs, there's a reason you're the backbone of our Army. You got that right from a way, way, way back. And for you, Colonel Richard Brown, having come up through, I saw that picture of you as a private, and now here you are just continuing to do great things. So I just, it just made me proud to listen to all of you, and now know that we're going to get a chance to get questions. And this is where the learning takes place. And sometimes some of the early questions and well, first of all, people can be shy. I don't think this group's going to be shy, but sometimes some of the early conversations can be a little difficult and a little awkward. And you know what? We've got the right group here. This is a safe environment. Whatever comments, questions, ideas anyone has, we're all in this together. So I look forward to it. Back to you, Colonel Richard Brown.
Awesome, ma'am. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate the fact that you brought all of you all's messages together, because you're absolutely right. It is about understanding that your organization that you're a part of is of what you make it. It is truly the be, know, and do as a non-commissioned officer who I will tell you as a colonel, I still turn to my NCOs and say, okay, am I doing it right? Hey, guide me. And that's where we as leaders, both NCOs, officers, warrant officers, have to understand that the culture that we know has existed for years is something that we have to take ownership of to help change. A climate is when I'm only there, just like Sergeant Major Scott said, I'm only there for 2 years. I'm going to impact that climate. They're either going to like me or not like me for a certain amount of time, and then I'm on my way gone to the next unit. And then some other commanders coming in. But the culture is, am I allowing the same things that you all talked about, the negative comments, the derogatory, the racist comments, are they existing? That's something that someone took and thought that that's how the military runs. I will just tell you, Sergeant Major Scott and everyone that's here at TRADOC understands, we have drill sergeants. Do you know how hard it was to teach drill sergeants not to be the old drill sergeants that they used, the barking in the face, the yelling, and the, you can Google old drill sergeants, and just remember how they were. That's a culture. That's never been any book that says that's what they're supposed to do. How do you change that? It takes generations to change it. Well, actually, it's not taking generations because it's a direct order to say you better not treat people like that again. But imagine how many drill sergeants are falling by the wayside to say, well, this is how I've learned it. This is how I've always thought I was supposed to be. And so with that, it's an understanding of, we're going to have to make you change on a dime because it's no longer accepted. And so I'm going to start with the first question, but oh, no, I'm not. I see someone's hand raised. So I'm going to go right to Mr. Joseph Claros. Hopefully I'm saying it right. Joseph, would you like to ask the first question of the evening? You're on mute. Just wanted to say you're on mute.
Okay, I don't know. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Well, hey, I like the platform. I know I'm not the only male that's logged into this, and so I think it's a force multiplier as we look at the organization. Key things that I captured were, hey, understanding the operational environment, NCOs being the backbone of spearheading what we promulgate to the force, and then the other one, I think someone mentioned it was strategic. The strategic impact that actions and deeds. And so one of the things that just for the forum, right, is one of the things that I have done is I'm part of the Nevada National Guard, so I'm an MDay, and I'm sure that you have interacted with Colonel Klima in terms of the direction that we're trying to do in Nevada here. And so one of the things that I have done, and I think as we move into the ODP process and really making an effort to do that, is incorporating the staff to have key candidate discussions. But just for everyone's essay, I think a book that ties in, specifically to this and how we treat female mentors and members of the opposite sex, but really soldiering, right? Is I don't know if you're aware about this book right here, The Confidence Code, the Art and Science. The Confidence Code, the Science and Art of Self-Assurance, what women should know. And so one of the things that I did is I read that book, and then I've promulgated that to female officers. But most importantly is as I move into the new year, is having the brigade staff read. And here's why. As we move forward into leading the next generation of folks, you really can't conceptualize or understand what goes through a female's perspective of self-doubt and how we treat them. And so the book really puts clarity and a little bit of science into how is it that why women have self-doubt, and maybe statistically, scientifically, they have self-doubt, but that doesn't mean males don't have self-doubt. But to tie the message in it's got to start at the top, not just in words, but actually deeds. And most importantly is how do we promulgate that across the formation to force professional development and really get at the heart of having candid discussions, i.e. an example. If I'm an officer and I see someone else in the formation, or I'm in a meeting, right? And one of my peers as a male cuts off a female officer. Am I the person that's going to be like, hey, hold on a second, let her finish? Option one, right? And sometimes based on personality, you got to gauge the room. Or option two, you let them finish, and then you come back and be like, hey, actually hold that thought. If it's a female officer, hold that thought. I think that's a very good point. Let's table it. We'll come back to that. Let that individual that interrupted, because obviously at that point, so you got to go with the feeling that you have in the room, but then come back and circle back and say, hey, Captain, whatever, so-and-so, go ahead and finish your thought, because I think it may add value to the discussion of the meeting that we're having. And so please elaborate. And so we have to, if we really want to change the culture within a formation, within across both vertical, horizontal, right? It has to start at the top. And keep in mind that at the strategic level, we implement processes at our level from here and up, but it doesn't matter really the rank, right? Everyone is a leader. And I think one of the things that I spoke to, I just came back from Tasman Sabre 21 exercise. And so I was sitting next to a soldier, right? And 9 times out of 10, I think a lot of young soldiers, it goes back to connecting with young soldiers and shaping that environment where you remind soldiers that, hey, I used to be you. And every problem set that you think you may have, I guarantee you someone in this formation has struggled through that. But what tends to happen is young soldiers, because of the culture that you create, who do they go to for advice? They go to a peer that probably doesn't have as much experience in life. And so you have to create that culture where people want to get advice, seek advice. But anyways, I don't want to take up so much time. I just want to share that because I think it's a very good book for any officer or future person to really understand how do we navigate in the new dimension. And really, it's not new. It's just the art of science and leadership.
Hey, thank you so much. We're gonna put that the title of the book on our Facebook page as well as in our email when we send it out, because we are part of our newsletters. We're going to be providing reading, book assignments, not reading assignments, but book reading lists and things like that. So that's an awesome one. And I really appreciate your comments and your thoughts. And that's what this is about, because we want you all to give us some of your experiences. And you're absolutely right. We get AIT soldiers here, and for some odd reason, they cannot believe that we were where they were. And understand that. So, and I would submit to you all, when we get our soldiers in our formations, remember, they come from mainstream America. So they come from a culture that they grew up with. And so we now have to figure out how we change them. There's certain things that are unacceptable in our formations, period. If they're unacceptable, we have to help them change that, because they don't know that it's wrong probably until they get to us and they learn, no, you can't call a woman that, or you can't call them, no, you can't put your hands on there. No, you can't overtalk someone. Just like you said, Lieutenant Colonel Claros, someone over talking a female, plenty of times we've sat in rooms, and a few sessions ago, we had one topic that was having a seat at the table. Well, one, we have to get the seat at the table first. And then 2, we have to earn the respect to stop people from interrupting us. And so when that happens, how do you do that? Well, when we become so assertive to stop people from interrupting us, they label us. And so now we're labeled as, oh, well, she's a certain way. And, dare I say any of the names that we get labeled. But I appreciate you saying that, because here again, as what I said to Chief, we need you in those rooms when we're not in those rooms, to say those very things and stop your peers or your battle buddies from doing the things to help us change that culture. So really appreciate those comments. And that's what we're here for. It's not just a question and answer, but it's also, if you have some insight that you think you want to add to the group, I think it's wonderful. We have another hand up, and I'd like to recognize Christina before I get ready to ask a question that was, we're going to have a question for Command Sergeant Major Scott, and we're going to open it up to everyone else. But Christina, would you like to ask your question or make a comment?
Yes, ma'am. Hi, everyone. My name is Captain Christina Costello. I'm actually a Log CCC student here at Fort Lee. I just started in my first week and heard about this program. I think it's awesome. I wanted to comment on what Colonel Carlos was mentioning about that small detail where a female will go ahead, like a fellow female soldier will say something, and then her teammates will try to overtalk her or interrupt. And I often, I too have seen that a lot. I served both in the Virginia National Guard, and also now I'm active duty for 11 years. And I've been in positions like this where when I grew up in the Army, we heard about servant leadership, right? Remember, we were talking about servant leadership, and I understood that until years of doing this job. I started to wonder if that was working against me because of my gender. Oftentimes I felt like I always had to do extra, as if my qualifications were not good enough, my commission was not good enough to showcase that I am a member of this team, I am somebody of value, and I am a go, right? I did want to comment on that I do agree that more examples of senior leaders or somebody out there facilitating that kind of behavior, because I know it can be awkward, it can be scary and become an emotional event, but I think it is good to pause and simply highlight like, hey, this was a behavior that we just observed, but this is the action that we're gonna do to remedy it so that we don't repeat the same mistakes. We're gonna keep learning from that. I think that is important and is something that I'm gonna try to take with me into the classroom. I mean, even this week, I had male soldiers come up to me and misinterpret my enthusiasm to partake in school, which was, oh, so you know everything, comments like that. Or my favorite ones is like, you got to stop with all these good ideas in class. It's just, I've heard about this over and over again, and it's hard. You know, I even the humor, I think there's a lot of passive aggression that is communicated with the humor. I know our culture is really big on the humor, big on the cursing, big on situational humor, but I'm still trying to figure out as a young captain, how can I change this? How can I be the change agent to identify the behaviors that communicate that, hey, this is not good. This no longer has a place in today's Army. But my response, I often feel like, is always on the spotlight for that. I feel that a lot, that my response to certain behaviors towards me is always gauged and sets the tone, and I think more influentially than if it were another male behaving that way, or they like gang up on you, so to speak. I just wanted to comment on that, and thank you, sir, for sharing that as well. That was validating to hear.
So I just have to tell you, and I will tell you, probably every senior leader that's a female on this panel has probably experienced the exact same thing. And here's what I'll tell you. I learned it a long time ago, and I'm going to let the panel members bring this up. But because I go to speak to BOLIT classes and triple C classes, and also pre-command course classes, one of the main things I learned growing up from my mentors, and I'm going to get into mentors, don't let anyone steal your joy. What they're doing is they're trying to stifle you from being you. And when they hit you with that, you have to understand you can't always keep friends. The people that are making you feel bad aren't your friends. And if they're making you feel bad about being, because I was that one, I would raise my hand. I needed to show people I was smart because I needed to show them that I belonged here. Don't let them take that away from you, because what's going to happen is they're going to continue to cause you to no longer be who you are. They're going to continue to cause you to go into this little bubble. I recommend to you, and like we do, the reason we started this program is to provide that safe environment. We meet every month, the fourth Thursday of every month. So welcome to the family. We'll put you on the distro list. And that means you can reach out to any of us. Go figure, we're on post. And you can reach out and find our names. And I say that to say, sometimes you just need a sounding board to pump you up and get you ready to go back in that room the next day. Sometimes as I was growing up, my sister, I'd have to call her and say, look, I'm sick of this. I can't do this anymore. You need someone you can talk to who's been through it, that then says, let me give you some little tips on how to make them and shut them down. I used to love shutting people down. Now, what was that reputation? She's assertive or she's aggressive. You know, words have meaning. So they label you. But you know what? They're labeling you to keep them from feeling uncomfortable. Make them feel uncomfortable. It's okay to make them feel uncomfortable. Well, what's the problem? Why are you hating on me? Well, you know, use whatever your generation's terms are. Like my kids keep me in the know. But what you have to do is you have to stop them from doing it. It's okay to not have them like you. I say that for a reason. They'll eventually respect you more for shutting them down, because they're like, now I can't even I can't say that around. You can't curse around me. You can't just say certain things around me. And that means I have to make you respect me. By doing so, they're going to end up saying, wow, okay, I can't do that around him. Maybe I can't make those comments around him. But I advise you, like I said, mentorship. People are going to keep you motivated because they've been through, and they'll give you tidbits. We'll give you tidbits. You can reach out to me anytime you want. Sergeant Major Scott, anyone on this panel is here because we've committed to doing something bigger than us. And so I just wanted to say that to you. Trust me, you can get through this, and we've got people here that are going to help you, to include myself. I'll be right up there at ALU saying, you tell me, point them out, who's bothering you. I'll be glad to talk to them. That's the purpose of this panel.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're so welcome. But ladies and Chief, what would you all like to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to add to that. So hearing the comments, and that's unfortunate that you're going through those situations right now. But you also have to know your audience and your surroundings, because people wind up in cliques. And when you're around those cliques, people, gravitate to the good old boy network, or, or something of that nature. Some people just are there just so that they can just get in and get out. They don't want any good ideas that, can have them in class longer and so forth like that. That's just the nature of people. But you got to shut that down. You sit down there and you say, hey, I'm here to learn, and what you feel is wasting your time because you really don't care about it may influence you, or may, if you sit down and listen to what I'm talking about, it may answer your second and third question that they're going to talk about in class right now, so you can be a little smarter down the long run. One of those things, respect has been talked about, maturity. That's another thing, the maturity of the personnel that's around you. We work together. We're supposed to be a team. But on that same token, you got to take care of you, but you got to watch your six. You got to take care of your peers, and you got to always be moving forward. So you never look down on anybody. And this is what I tell all my peer personnel. And I was a 10th Mountain soldier out at Fort Drum. Never look down on anybody aside from when you're pulling them up. So I'll close on that.
Sergeant Major, would you like to add anything to her comment?
And so what I will just tell you, ma'am, I do believe in making on the spot corrections. So if someone says something to you that you feel, is inappropriate or, offensive to you, being aware, it goes back to that cultural agility that I talked about, self-awareness, because a lot of times people will make comments and nobody ever says anything to them. So they think that it's okay. So the very first person that tells them, hey, you know what, sir or ma'am, it's inappropriate for you to say, hey, I am the queen of good idea fairies. They will tell you up there at QMS, and I come in the building owning it. Hey, here comes the good idea fair. I got a good idea. And I tell Sergeant Major Hunter, my proponent, all the time, Sergeant Major, I got a good idea today. And he'd be like, oh my God, here she go again. But, I find different ways to approach and to address things versus, not being so direct all the time. Because sometimes you can, say it in maybe a joking manner, or maybe not so aggressive, to get your point across. And so, but I will tell you is that you have to nip things in the bud, because you teach people how to treat you. And so when someone says something to you that you don't like, or, you find it kind of particular offensive, you should just pull the person to the side and just let them know, you can't talk to me that way. And that's my advice, ma'am.
No, I completely agree with that. And hopefully, I'm sure everyone else on here does. And I will tell you, a joke is not a joke. When they joke like that, they always laugh. They're making you the butt of the joke. And so when they're doing that, you have to tell them that wasn't funny. I don't see the humor in it. So just like she said, the on-the-spot correction, sometimes, and I hate to say this, sometimes people need to be corrected in front of other people, because the peanut gallery that's laughing with them, they don't know you pulled them aside. And don't get me wrong, I believe in pulling aside too, but certain situations deserve a sting right then to say, no, you can't talk to me that way. And then everyone is going to be like, okay, well, they may feel awkward and uncomfortable, which they will, or that you're just being so sensitive. No, I'm not being sensitive. I'm being a leader. You need to stop. And so when you call them on it and you bring military words all into it, now they have to rethink what they're doing. So I appreciate Sergeant Major saying that. Ma'am, would you like to say anything? Miss Smith?
Yeah, hi, how are you?
Oh,
I'm sorry, I logged in late. Hey, I would go back to bullying. I mean, a lot of this becomes bullying after a while if you don't stand up for yourself, and that offensiveness doesn't get any better over time. So, you know, pull out your bullying manual and go back to square one and say, hey, I'm not part of this. You know, you can slip away anytime you want, but I'm not part of this.
Wow. Well, so for those of you that don't know who this lovely woman is, this is Brigadier General Retired Robin Aiken, who was one of our guest speakers panelists a few panels ago. So I'm so glad she's always here and supportive, and everyone always joins in and offers some great words of encouragement. And so we have a captain here that is telling us what's going on. Hey, that's why we do this program, the mentorship that we're here for, to tell you after we get off the phone, that's not it, Christina. You have an opportunity to reach out to any of us. Like I said, we're here because you need further guidance normally to make you feel confident and encouraged to go back in that room. And guess what? A lesson would be just like General Aiken said, it's bullying. You know, it's all kinds of bullying. It's not joking. We're not in college anymore. And so because they are still having that college mentality, they're trying to do what they did in college, make someone feel uncomfortable or make them the butt of the joke so they can get the attention and people can like them. And so there's techniques to it. It's not a one day thing. It's not a, we're sitting here talking about it, it's going to be better tomorrow. It takes time for you to build that confidence. And I would just say that. And that's where your mentors or your friends or your support system come in. All right. General Sutton, did you want to say anything also?
Yeah, listen, thanks, Colonel Pritchard Brown. This is really such an important discussion. And Captain Christina, I didn't get your last name, but Christina, thank you so much for bringing up this issue. And General Aiken, you know, you mentioned bullying. This is so important to take on. And it's not easy, but it's easier now that people know about it. They talk about it. It's not just in the playground or in the classroom, but it's in any organization. There's a step beyond bullying that you also need to know about and to look out for, and it's called mobbing. You know, bullying is when one person picks on another and it feels horrible and, you know, all the things you described, Christina. Mobbing is what happens in a group, whether it's animals or birds or military units or condo boards or healthcare units. It's a primitive instinct where one person is identified as the target, and people will do and say things within that group environment that they would never do or say as an individual. And Christine, I'll just share something very personal with you. I was not good when I was in uniform at standing up for myself or holding the line. I would let senior leaders bully me so that my peers wouldn't have to take it. And I paid an enormous price personally for it. And in the end, I allowed myself to be mobbed from the Army. I didn't know what had happened. Mind you, I'm a psychiatrist. It wasn't until about a year and a half, 2 years later, I had scoured the bullying literature. Part of it fit, but it was so, it just didn't even come close to covering everything. And I found a book by Maureen Duffy and Lynn Sperry, and it's called Overcoming Mobbing. This is a set of clinician researchers who've now written several books, but they've worked with people targets of mobbing is what they've devoted their career to. And what they found is for an individual who is mobbed, who is driven from the group, the impact of that level of isolation and ostracism and humiliation is such that the human mind, body, immune system is what you see in a concentration camp survivor. And that's where I was at the end of my 30 years. I vowed to myself, I love my Army. I didn't love how I allowed myself to be treated and how I was treated. But this is a gift. I swore to myself, I will spend whatever time I need to spend and do whatever is necessary to come out of this experience embracing it as a gift. And I would, every time I mention this topic of mobbing, and by the way, sexual assault, over half of those who have been sexually assaulted in our Army, over half of them cite retaliation, which becomes mobbing in most cases. And they said, but that's even worse than the assault, than the rape. So this can save lives, because suicides result, people's lives are shattered, they're ruined. And it starts with, as Sergeant Major said, as Chief has said, as General Aiken and Colonel Peavy have said, it starts with paying attention, standing up for yourself, and preparing yourself so you know what these dynamics are. That's part of what it is to be the keeper of the conscience of a culture. Over.
Thank you so much. And I will, oh, go ahead, Chief.
We just talked as General Retired Sutton had just talked about mobbing. You know, it just brought to me a thought of a book and a movie that was The Lord of the Flies. If you have never seen or read that book, you will definitely see what mobbing is all about reading that book. So I would tell you, hey, take a gander if you haven't already seen that, and you'll see exactly what we're talking about. And we don't want that to happen to anyone. Over.
And I'm so glad you said that. I will tell you, from the captain's level, having been a captain and having a number of officers on here that have been captains, we remember those cliques. We remember those, this is the in crowd, this is the cool crowd, this is the who you want to know. And it normally left you feeling alone. And the reason I bring up who can you turn to, because you don't want to feel alone. How many times have we told someone else our problems, and then they tell us their problems, and we kind of feel a little bit better about our problems because we're like, oh, I don't have that bad. Wow. You know, not that you want to relish in their problems, but you don't feel alone now. And so what you have to do is you have to tell people you're feeling that way. Maybe there's somebody else in your classroom right now that feels that same way. What bothers me the most, and I'm so glad General Sutton said it, is you have, when you pull someone aside and they tell you, oh, you know, that is bad, you know, that, yeah, that's horrible. But they're in the mob and no one's saying anything. They know it's wrong. But when they get inside, you know, I really didn't think that was right when that was the way they treated you. But you sat right there and watched them treat me that way. So now how are you really coming to me after the fact when no one's watching, seeing you do the right thing? Do that when it's happening. That's that on the spot correction we're talking. Tell them when you see it happening. Stop them, just like Lieutenant Colonel Claudio said. Stop it when it's happening. And that helps not only build your confidence that you have that support, but there's somebody else in that room that's experiencing that exact same thing, and they won't say it. Why? Because they're the ones that's trying to stay out of that limelight to be ridiculed. They won't speak up, and they'll be like, okay, look, I don't want the attention. And so that's where you have to start building your own network of support. You have a network of support here, you have a network of support you probably don't even realize, but bring that up. And when we get done, just so you know, we're approaching quickly 19:30. I'll tell you, time flies by when you're having fun. However, I do still stay on, and we normally have the executive committee and anyone else that wants to stay on after the formal portion. We say formal, that's the 19:30. That way we can release people from our from being hostages under our clutches. But at 19:30, we thank everybody for being here, and then we sit on a little bit longer, and we get phone numbers and we get names. So that Christina, who's over there at ALU, who happens to see Chief Waddy sitting here, who's over at ALU, or Command Sergeant Major Scott, who happens to be the Quartermaster Sergeant Major, who goes up to ALU all the time, and we know enough people. I would love to meet Christina one day. I'd love to just walk in the office, in the classroom, say, hey, there's my mentee. You know how fast people would stop? And I'm saying this for a reason. It's not just necessarily Colonel Pritchard Brown, it could be Chief. It could be Command Sergeant Major. When you know people and people know you, other people tend to leave you alone after a while, because you then have to start realizing it's even easier to channel the person that you really look up to. And I tell my sister and some of my friends, channel your inner Colonel Pritchard Brown. My sister, I'm gonna tell my sister, she's on it. She used to use me to break up with her boyfriends. I'm just saying, because she didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. She was like, I don't want to hurt any. Okay, well, I'll do it. And she was like, okay, do it. Well, after a while, she channeled her inner Dia. You channel your inner person that you look up to and say, how can I do this? let me see it, and then test it out, and you're going to start feeling good about yourself. Because it's nothing more than, it's nothing more rewarding than standing up for yourself and saying, I did that. Because how many of us have sat there and gone home and be like, oh, I should have said this. Man, I should have said, you know what, next time I'm gonna say this. And you know that next time never comes, right? You'll never have that opportunity to come back and say it the way it should have been said. But that takes time. And so that's building that confidence. So, all right, I have a question that was asked in the chat room. And the question is to Command Sergeant Major Scott. Command Sergeant Major Scott, would you mind expanding upon the comment? You can't talk about culture without talking about climate. What is the difference between culture and climate? And that was asked by Second Lieutenant, awesome, Second Lieutenant, of course, I can't see the whole name. Ravenel, Second Lieutenant Ravenel. Did I get the question right, Lieutenant Ravenel?
Yes, you did, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. So thank you for that question, ma'am. It's a good question. So what I was referencing in the difference, you can't talk about culture without talking about climate. Because when you look at the culture is something that is kind of embedded into people. It's kind of, it goes with your age, your background, values, things that people believe in, your morals, things that are deeply embedded in you. But like a climate, and I think we just mentioned it earlier, a climate is something that's short-lived, short-term. And when you get to certain organizations, you know, being a sergeant major, you know, I can see a platoon that everybody in that platoon, like all of a sudden everybody starts to dip because that's like the cool thing to do. And it's like a culture and you know, for lack of better examples, like that's just an example of, you know, you have soldiers that come that, you know, you be like, why are you dipping? Oh, that's what we do now. You know, so that's kind of like the climate that, you know, certain people kind of set. And it goes beyond just dipping, you know, it goes beyond that, but just kind of like when you have the clicks, and it could be a temporary thing, not even something that's sustained, you know, people will leave the organization and they'll forget all about like, oh yeah, that was the thing that we used to do back in that particular unit because people used to allow them to just do that. You know, and so when I look at just climate, it's just certain, like, I would just say kind of like things that are short-lived. What's the end thing? Kind of like what's hot and popping at the time, like, you know, kind of what Colonel PB said, it's like the end thing, whether it's something slang, like people say, hey, you know, like the cool thing that you be like, okay, I know that's disrespectful. And I have to come ask my nephews, and hey, what does that really mean when they say this? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? You know, because they change terminology up so much. So I look at that when I talk about climate, things of such of that nature. It's short-lived. It's just like kind of like a cliche, like I'm just doing it just to be doing it because the person that's beside me. But a culture is something that is embedded in people. Like that's who you are. You know, you can't change that. Like I can't walk up into a formation. I'm from Georgia. I speak to everybody. I'm just a smiling, hey, how you doing? It doesn't matter where I go. That is my culture where I grew up in, and that's what I do. But then, you know, other people, they like, why are you speaking to me? That's not how they grew up. You know, they kind of like, hey, don't speak to me. I don't know you. They only speak to the people that they know. So to me, that's the difference when you start talking about the culture. And then when you relate that to an organization, you talk about the Army culture. You look at doctrine. You look at, you know, regulations of what we're built on and what the Army regulation tells us. So that's the culture when, you know, you're looking at it from an Army perspective versus like the climate piece of it. But climate to me comes with people, you know, just temporary. So if you get somebody who's high speed and motivated, that's standing in front of formation every day and yelling to the top of their lungs, that's going to be the climate of that organization. But if that is not the culture that we create for everybody to do that, when we leave, the next person that comes in, and that's not their motivation, you're going to see a dramatic change. So that's the difference, ma'am. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
And I'll just add to the culture part of it, the culture of how, just what Christina described, there was a culture of trying to discourage us from continuing on. You know, you get enough people to make you feel bad, then you get out. A lot of the times they don't want you to be there. You know, when people want to shut you down from that good idea fairy, they don't want you to outshine them. So what do? They make you shut up because you sound too smart. Well, you know, oh, you must know everything. That's a negative connotation for being smart. So don't let anybody make you look. You must be mad that I've got the answers. Don't be mad. Learn the book, learn the information. And so those sometimes are ways to try to unmotivate you to be successful. Because as we all know, everybody knows they have to have, everybody's looking at their OERs going up. And so they're trying to be the top of the crab. You know, what is the crabs in a bucket? They're trying to be the top. So they're going to keep pushing you down because they're trying to get to the top. And if that's to unmotivate you to be successful, you have to ask yourself, will I let them do that? And so again, it takes time to build that courage. I see 2 hands lifted, but let me raised up. So Christina, did you want to add a comment back in there after we provided some of those answers?
I just wanted to thank everybody for their input, especially you, ma'am, about the term mobbing. I've never heard of that term before. I'm looking at the book right now on Amazon, and I'm going to download it on my Kindle and take a look at that. I think I also liked, ma'am, the comment that you made about, you know, somebody else could be feeling that way too. And you just, I mean, that's what I love about this uniform. You know, we all have the same last name, U.S. Army, right? US Army. And I just like it. It's old school. It reminds me of when I first joined, where it's like, hey, it's not about you anymore. It's about who's on your left and right. So thank you. I'm motivated now. Thanks so much, everyone.
Awesome.
Oh, that's great.
Mhm.
Well, and you know, Colonel PB, can I just say something in response to that? You know, it wasn't so many years ago when, you know, we would repeat the warrior ethos. And there was a part of that maybe this is part of the culture that then can filter into the climate, like you were saying, Sergeant Major, but, you know, mission first, never accept defeat, never quit, never leave a fallen comrade. Okay, all that's good. But some people could use the mission first to just say, I don't have to treat people with respect. It's mission first. I love what the chief of staff of the Army of McConville has done by saying people first. He's explicitly saying, you can't get to the mission because you got to take to the people first. That's how you get to the mission, is you take care and you put people first. And I just think it gives me great hope and comfort and courage. And I'm just so proud of every single one of you, and Colonel PB and anybody else who's on this line. I've been a little bit distracted this last year, had a little mayor's race in front of me, but now I'm back with my feet on the ground, waiting to go to a Jets game with you, Chief. And listen, just know that you got a forever soldier here in New York that loves you and cares about you. And if there's ever anything that I can do for any of you, don't even hesitate. There is no greater privilege. One team. Over.
Well, ma'am, I think I emailed you this. I said, look, I'd have voted for you in a New York second had I known. But I will tell you, it's indicative of who you are. And I will say, everybody that's on here who wants to contribute and help someone, the fact that you're running as mayor, most people think it's a position. You're running because you want to take care of others who can't take care of themselves. Yep. And so we have people that are out there that need to be taken care of as we help them build their confidence. I bring that up, Christina, because I was Captain Pritchard Brown once. I was Lieutenant Pritchard Brown. I built that. Well, luckily I had a mama that made us have our confidence, because going back to the culture and the climate we talk about, I tell people all the time, and I'm unapologetically female. I will tell you, I walked in a room. God made me a Black female. Am I angry? Absolutely not. So you can't accuse me of being an angry Black female. Don't get me wrong, I can get angry. However, that is not who I am. And so what they're doing is they're designing a way to make you think of who you are. They're making you think you're going to be weak, or they're going to make you feel like you're not as strong as them. We can change that narrative starting tomorrow. It's all about okay, today I am done. I have all these women and men on this panel to say this. I'm walking in tomorrow. Let one of them say something to me the wrong way. I'm gonna hit them hard, not physically. I'm gonna hit them hard with my words. And then you're gonna feel good. You're like, okay, I don't mind if they're mad about it. I'm okay with them being angry at me because I didn't like how they made me feel. You know, so why would I care about? That's the other thing. We most of the time don't tell on people. People don't report because they don't want the other person to get it. I don't want to ruin his career or her career Well, why would you not want to ruin their career or ruin their reputation if you're the victim? If they're making you feel that way, it's like you're putting their feelings before your own. So don't allow someone to make you feel a certain way and then not let them get in trouble for it. Tell them, hey, look, this is not right. I don't like this. And so take your position as more important than theirs. Your feelings are more important than theirs. So you correct them and tell them you can't make me feel this way anymore. All right. All right, Christina, we'll leave you alone. Well, girl, we'll be talking to you all night long because I said, look, I'm coming tomorrow. Yeah, Mari, I see your hand is raised. Major Mari Lee.
Hey ma'am, how's it going? As you know, I'm TDY here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So I was gonna tell Christina that I know exactly what she means. Being a planner and a sustainment planner in this level is definitely challenging. And you always get, especially when you say something and then the next mail says the same thing and you're like, well, did you hear me just say that? And then everybody just acts after they heard it for the first time. And 2 years ago, that was happening. But now the Army is changing and it's changing fast. And now guess what? Whenever something like that happens, you have undoubtedly somebody else says, yeah, Mari just said that. Oh, hey, Major Lee just said that. So they're listening, they're listening. The Army is changing. The Army is acknowledging what we bring to the table. So there's hope. There's hope. And the key is that I would challenge every field grade here, especially majors and lieutenant colonels, because ma'am, let's face it, they will not say it in front of you. They will not say the derogatory things in front of you because you're no 6 and the Burr commands respect. The same thing with Sergeant Major. They won't do that. But they will do that in front of the majors. They will do that in front of the captains. They will do that sometimes in front of the good old people, lieutenant colonels. So guess what? If we see it and we stop it and we let them know that it's not cool, that at the end of the day, every mind counts. And we tell them, hey, you know what? Guess what? This is not gonna fly. This is not, you can't shut people down for being divergent, which is what I love to call female mind divergent, because we are different, we think differently. And as planners, like when we understand that every mind has a different perspective, like Chief Wadi said, and sometimes the old way is not the best way. Sometimes the new way is the best way. And we got to be open to that. So, and I'm excited because I see things changing so fast. I'm excited that that the things that were happening and went on I've been in the Army 20 years and went on. And now there's people calling it out. There's people and you see it and it's exciting. And I get excited every time I see it happening. So to me, it's pretty good time. So Christina, there's hope. Believe you me, we were all there at one point or another. We were all there. Every field grade that is here will tell you that. But we're making a change. And there's people like Sergeant Major, Chief Wadi, and the General Sutton that actually are influencing that change. So thank you so much for the trailblazers out there.
Thank you so much. So ladies and gentlemen, we're at 1932 and I'm loving it. I could go another 2-3 hours, but I won't. What I would like to do, like I always do, and like I said earlier, we're gonna stay on after everyone gets off if they choose to, but I'd like to open it up to my always faithful VIP team that I love just calling out. And so to get some of their comments, Ms. Jan Edmonds, would you mind, Major General Retired Jan Edmonds, would you mind adding some thoughts on your topic tonight or any feedback that you would like, ma'am? I don't know if she heard me. General Edmonds, you there? I see you. I see your lovely picture. Okay, well, I'm going to jump to Miss, I'm sure that is Anita Dixon, Lillian Dixon, the Honorable Lillian Dixon. Ma'am, are you able to make any comments or did I get the wrong Dixon? Oh. Okay, well then I'm going to, General Aiken, would you like to make some final comments?
Just, this is such a great organization you guys are trying to pull together. And I don't see as many women and men tonight as I normally do. I know there's a lot going on in the world and God bless our Marines and soldiers in Afghanistan. But I will tell you, everyone that's on this program needs to invite 3 people, minimum. minimum 3 people, 3 battle buddies that you want to be on the screen with you. And that will help us make this happen in our Army and our military, because it's very important. We're not getting any younger. We're 237, 42 years old now. And so we need to grow our country, grow our ability to understand our military. And I had a great discussion last night with one of my neighbors, and she says, why are we still in freaking Afghanistan and insulting our military? And I said, until you stand on that ground and take heard of what's going on around you, you don't have any ability to talk. So turn off the media, get with somebody that knows what's going on, and spread the word, because we are too small to be a 1%er to make that challenge to the rest of the American population. And I have really been on TV all day long looking at people talking about what's going on. And my heart goes out to everybody, and my heart goes out to everyone's on active duty right now, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And so God bless you guys. And Pritchard Brown, you're my hero every day. So thank you so much. That's all I have.
You're so welcome, ma'am. And ma'am, I just want to tell you, and for those of you that read the email, just the blessing of the number of people that we have here, I will tell you, it's because they've started their chapters in their own areas. We've got up to 20 people or 20 locations that have started interest groups and chapters. Oh, by the way, we have Sergeant Major Jose Raimundo, who's on here, who's actually doing a live feed on Facebook to his, how many is it, Sergeant Major? 6 or 8 platforms that he sends out this. So just know that we are working this. We've already briefed ASA, MNRA at the Department of the Army level, Department of Defense level. So I will honestly tell you, I'm truly honored that we are all here together, and you will hear more of this. And so just like she said, invite 3 people. I can guarantee when they sit in for a few minutes, I think they'll be captivated with the discussion, because we try to have a candid discussion about these very things people are going through. And because we have our generations through the years, what better people to learn from than the people that have been through it? I tell my own soldiers, I said, look, it's the answers to the test. Let me just tell you what answers they are. It's up to you to use them and how you try to use them in your life. But the bottom line is you're not alone, and we've been through probably what you've been through. So seek out a mentor. I have many mentors, but I always tell people I have a mentor that looks exactly like me, a mentor that looks nothing like me, and a mentor that looks somewhat. That means a Black female, a Black male, a white male, a white female. I have tons of mentors, but I get something from all of them, different perspectives. But it took me just going up and saying, I would like you to be my mentor. Be okay with that. And guess what? They're going to probably look at you and say, I would be honored to. Be glad to share what I know. And so Christina and every other junior enlisted or officer on here, feel free to reach out. And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say this is yet another successful evening of just hearing some great comments. I thank you so much. The executive board thanks you so much. The executive board consists of Captain Shalonda Estelle, Captain Mary Tang, Major Mari Lee, and Captain Cooper Thomas, who are all in here and making it work, just the behind the scenes piece. But you all are what makes this a successful organization. And so thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, General Sutton. You're wonderful. You are my hero. I will be reaching out to you more often. But so are all of the other ones on here. General Edmonds, General Aiken, Anita Dixon. All of you all are, you're just pillars of success and role models for all of us. And so thank you so much, Chief Waddy. You had some amazing comments, and we'll be reaching out, because guess what? You're an absolute perfect mentor for some of the men and women on here. And we believe in cross-gender mentorship. We need to hear the other perspective. We need to see how we're being seen. We need to know what you see us doing, because we think our way. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. It's truly, I truly believe it. And then Command Sergeant Major Scott, just awesome. She was at our women's observance today, and just I looked down, I was like, I can't wait to this evening, because I know she's got a lot to add to this conversation. So just absolutely wonderful. If you know someone or you would like to invite someone to be a guest speaker, please put it out there. Let them know we're pulling up our next year's lineup. And again, we meet every month on the 4th Thursday of the month, from 6 o'clock to 7:30 or 1800 to 1930. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of the executive team. Have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful rest of the month. And we pray we'll see you next month at our next session, which we're going to send out our flyer and tell you everything about it. But without further ado, I'm going to stay on. So for those of you that like to stay, have to jump off and go do some great things with your families, have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
Stay strong, y'all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of the week. Please let us know if we can do anything for you. You know,
Back at you.
I got some security or anything. I'm here, ma'am.
Okay, me too. Thanks again, y'all. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye. And so Christina, if you're still on, believe me, I'm going to put our information in the chat box. You just reach out. We can talk some more, and if whoever else you'd like to be a part of or discuss things with. 241-950. And that's put my phone number in it. And that's to you. All right, team. Does anyone have any comments or any thoughts you want to bring out? Sergeant Major, anything, any final thoughts or any comments you want to talk to the group about? We're in the dialogue even more section.
Thank you. No, I just want to say thank you for the invite. First of all, I think this is a great discussion tonight. And I think it'll lead to further discussions amongst people that's in the group. And I do believe, hey, invite 3 more people, to this platform, to let them know, the great discussions, but all great points. And Chief, phenomenal points that you brought up. I know we had discussed it earlier, but I think sharing that from a male's perspective, I think was really, really, really awesome. And, ma'am, I totally agree with having males on the platform as well, to share the experiences, from, female soldiers and female leadership is a great plus to this platform as well. So I just thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the panel members and also the feedback that was from the group, but yes.
Thank
But
you
that's
so
it.
much.
Yes, ma'am.
You have, if you got to sign up, I completely understand. Thank you so much. So I know you've had a busy day. And so thank you so much for being here. You had wonderful words of wisdom and just being open to just even sharing your thoughts. So thank you. Anybody else have anything? If not, I don't want to hold anybody hostage.
Hey, Colonel PBA, it's Chaplain Jones.
Hey, Chaplain, I thought I saw you, but how are you doing?
I'm sitting here at Fort Hood, the great place.
What are you, so what would you like to share to the group? So we have a beautiful, a wonderful chaplain right here. Chaplain Jones just introduced my Army War College buddy. And so I love the fact that you're sitting here. Any thoughts you want to add to the group?
I'm so glad you're doing this. I know that everybody has had an interesting journey, and you and I have had an interesting journey, and then we wake up and we're kind of in our dream job, and heck, I never thought I'd be the 3 Corps chaplain. So it's about being sure of who you are, knowing who you are in God, and being sure of that calling. And, every day I decide that I don't give the haters the power, right? I don't give them any power. And so I just kill them with kindness, give them lots of grace, and try to share everything I have with people, and always lead with the intent of love. And it seems to work out pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if I give them the power, then they win, right? So, but I appreciate you doing this. I know it's needed. I know our female chaplains need it. I hope I can get some more of our female chaplains to join in on these type of events so they can learn and grow also. But I'm proud of you, girl.
Thank you so much. And I'm so glad you, as you were talking, I was typing in there. The question is, how can they get a copy of this video? I invite everyone to join the Female Mentor Morale Program Facebook page. I didn't realize we had 2. We got a private one, we have a public one. We're going to make it all public so everybody can join it, and you'll see the additional comments. And they always have all these videos. So if someone didn't make it tonight or any of the other program sessions, you can go right on there and see all the videos of our former guest speakers. We've had Lieutenant General Laura Richardson on here, who, as you all know, should know by now, is up for her 4th star. So we're waiting to hear some good news on that. She will be the second female to ever receive her first star. I mean, her fourth star. General Dornick was the first Army female general to receive the four stars. We've had General Fogg. We've had the Army IG, Lieutenant General Smith. And so there's so many people that are pouring into this program, and I'm putting it out there so that you can take it out, because you probably need it in your formations. You probably need it where people want to express themselves. The Christinas of the world, or like we had one session, we had a specialist that came out and told us a number of things that she was dealing with, and we reached out to her. And so please understand that the purpose of the program is not to only focus on a person, it's to focus on the challenges and the good things. Because we talk good things, we want to mentor, we want to provide, hey, this is the success that you can reach. And that's, if it's just a matter of sharing, we definitely want to share. Sergeant Major Raimundo, would you like to, are you able to, did you stop recording on the other? Can you speak and then not get caught off?
Oh yeah, I can talk now.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's kind of a challenge because I had two mics open, which is this one right here for the Zoom, but also I had to open the mic on the other platform. That's why I'm trying to like put the laptop in a room, because you know I have a whole family in here. My daughter with her husband's about PCS, plus 2 dogs, plus my son, and so it's a lot of noises going on. Plus the planes are flying, so I'm like, so I cannot talk too much. But yeah, I mean, I great discussion again for the third time that I have broadcast in this program. In you know, people being positive, receptible into the show, and you know, hopefully it keep expanding. And you know, that way we can reach out more people. It's needed, like some of the previous people have spoken, because you know, female has been a great part of the Army, but has not given the credit that they deserve. And I tell you, it's funny because by looking at my career, as I'm writing my final chapters before I retire, it's funny that 50% of my mentors, 50% of my old raters has been females. And I didn't notice that, because sometimes I don't see the difference between a male female rater versus a female. So it's kind of like, oh, wait a minute. So I like stats. So at these stats, and 55% are females, 45% has been males. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't notice that. I'm like, that's pretty cool. So that tell right there the impact on females. If you like go like this, just like the justice, the balance of the justice, and you look how she's a female, she don't know what she's doing, and things like that. If you actually focus the good things about a human being, whether it's a female or male, I mean, just like me, I don't feel any difference. I didn't feel the difference. I grew up in the ranks. I am who I am because a combination of females and males that actually mold me almost to perfection. I'll be happy with 4 more inches taller, but you know, I cannot always get everything. But I'm glad that I'm able to contribute, at least with expanding the program, let a lot of people know about the program, and supporting you the best I can, man.
Hey, Sergeant Major, this is Colonel Tahan. Thank you for being part of this group, and you don't need to grow any taller. The power in your punch is amazing, and what you've done for our Army and continue to do is phenomenal, and glad you're on the call.
Yes, man. And you know, the funny part is, you know, that I was telling Colonel Preacher Brown that, you know, that you came on board, and I think we see eye to eye, even though I had to step on the chair to look at you eye to eye, that, you know, you come up with this phenomenal happy day and challenge to be resilient. And I'm in the same boat. You know, I've been doing this for almost 3 years in regards to, you know, the impact of positivism and be resiliency, and look always the good thing about everything. You know, it's just like I told my son and the soldiers, is you do something wrong, or you do something and something goes wrong, then guess what? It's a lesson for you to not do it next time. And if you do something and something goes right, guess what? It's a lesson for you to do it next time. So either way, no matter what decision you make or what actions do you take, you always learn something. So, man, I tell you, and I tell you, you know, you are very contagious with your positivism. I know, you know, you charge me up, you pump me up in the morning. So every morning I put, you know, I don't know if Colonel Preacher Brown has seen it, but every morning I put something positive for that day. either it's a quote or something that actually inspire people to start the day with energy. So thank you, man. And, again, kudos to you for being my leader at the G146. So continue looking forward and working with you for as well.
Well, I have to add in here that Major Mari Lee stated that her grandfather used to say, Mari, you want to jump on this? Oh, hold on, I can say it for you. She says her grandfather used to say a man's stature is measured from the top of his head, not the other way around. Okay. All right, team, look, I'm not going to hold anybody. Does anyone else have any comments or thoughts that they want to add before we head out? Chief, I see you saying something, but I can't hear you. Chief Waddy? Nope, still gone.
Mute.
Uh-oh. Oh, that's a thank you. Great job. You said thank you so much, Chief. You're awesome. We'll be in touch. We'll be talking to you some more. All right, team. Have a wonderful evening. Sergeant Major Scott, thank you so much again. You're awesome. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll give you a high five somewhere doing something.
Thank
And
you.
tell your boss.
Got you.
All right, she's next. All right, team. Have a great weekend. Have a great rest of the month. Stay safe. Pray for those in Afghanistan. Pray for the families that have lost some loved ones, and stay COVID free. Please make people put their masks on. We have people that are fully vaccinated who are now catching COVID. Hope everybody understands what I just said. We are fully vaccinated, but people are still, yep, there you go, Chief. They're still catching COVID out there. It's only a handful, but it's probably because they're around people that are not wearing their masks and something is causing them to catch it. But trust the vaccines, go get vaccinated. Please tell your people. All right, have a wonderful evening. God bless. And we will see you next time. All right.